The tea is exceptionally good today. Who made this? Very delicious. Hold on.
Sometimes in life, timing is everything. And that's not always a great thing. Now, this rang very true for one of the stars of Love Island Season 7, Huda Mustafa. In one single night, a laugh heard all around the world cost Huda all her brand deals, and it also exposed a toxic fan culture. This wasn't just a bad decision, though. It was actually a cosmic crisis point in her chart, and we're going to talk about it. Grab your tea, cosmic cousins, and welcome to another episode of Astrology Tea with Nova Charm. And hey, I'm Nova Charm. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe. Go ahead and hit that like. Go ahead and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of this cosmic tea that I want to sip with you. Let's get straight into it because, child, this transit chart that I'm looking at of Huda's explains everything. Now, I've actually reviewed Huda's natal chart previously prior to on this channel. And even in that video, I had talked about, the victimhood and her not taking accountability and how that was pretty much going to bite her in the ass. I also talked about the fan base and how, it was not helpful to her, and as well as these relationships. So we've been here before. If you didn't get a chance to check it out, go check it out. But yeah, I spoke on this. So I knew that this was coming. For me, I'm just sit. Now, if you didn't get a chance to catch that video, let's go over some of Huda's placements so you can get an idea of what I mean. Now, Huda is a Cancer rising. Now, where she threw me off her chart was just extremely Mercury. Okay, she is a Virgo sun, Moon, Mercury, and Venus. Now, she's also a Leo Mars. Her Jupiter and her Saturn are both in Gemini. Uranus and Neptune are both in Aquarius, and then her Pluto is in Sagittarius. So that's where I kind of stopped it when it came to her chart. I don't even think I broke down all of those placements on the original video, but we're going to have to talk about some of that today. Okay, we just got to get into it. Now, the night when all of this went down, the sun, of course, was in Scorpio. The moon was in Capricorn at the 29th degree. Now, of course, that was alarming for me. I'm like, ooh. And then also Mercury was in Scorpio at the 29th degree. That's another oof, And then we had Libra in Venus, Mars in Scorpio, Jupiter in Cancer, Pisces in Saturn, Uranus in Gemini, Neptune in Pisces, Pluto was in Aquarius. Okay. So let me break this down, how this all plays out in her chart. I know I ran that down really fast, but we're going to get through this because we got a lot to talk about. Okay. Now, on a couple of those placements, you did hear me mention the 29th degree. The reason why I mentioned the 29th degree is because it is a fated degree. Now, we'll dive into that a little bit more later on in this video. Now, thinking about that night with those placements, as far as that degree being in both the moon and Mercury, child, yeah, let's get into it. So the events of that night was Huda was on live with her boyfriend Louis, which y'all know how I feel about him if y'all checked out my Huda video, okay? And a fan calls in. It appears to be a child, somebody's ignorant child, but nonetheless a child decides to drop a racial slur. Now, the fact that the girl dropped a racial slur, they're not blaming Huda for that. What they are blaming her for is busting out laughing. Now, Huda believed that her laugh was a nervous laugh. However, to us, it sounded like it was a gut buster, okay? Now, Huda and her boy toy proceeds to hang up on this ignorant child, as they should, but they did not address the issue and the elephant in the room, which was, why was y'all laughing at that, okay? Now, of course, the video got clipped and it went viral. Once Huda realized that everybody was talking about it, her and Louis went ahead and addressed it. However, accountability, well, that had left them a long time ago. They had none available that day, okay? Now, of course, people became hella angry about their statements because there was no accountability, and Huda just seemed to kind of blame everybody else for why she was in this position. Once more individuals started to speak out, Huda started to lose them brand deals. They started dropping like flies. And once that happened, well, then that's when the real apology came. However, baby, the damage was already done. And so here we are now. Now, really quickly, my opinion on the matter, of course, I was sickened by the fact that she would giggle or laugh at anything that was a racial slur. Even if you didn't hear the name Olandria, which I want to say I'm very proud of Olandria for how she handled it. I'm very proud of the statement. And I'm even prouder for her and Nick and how they are getting after the bag, even though I called it. If you didn't get a chance to watch, go check out that Nick and Landria video, okay? But yeah, Huda disappointed me by not addressing it at that very moment when it happened. She had every opportunity to apologize in that moment and say, you know what, that was a reaction. I am very sorry. I did not mean to laugh at that. That was strike one. And then strike two is when she had time to actually think about it and she went and wrote the statement. And the statement lacked very much accountability. Nothing mentioned about her being sorry that she laughed at such a thing. She just said that she didn't know who it was about, which that in itself still is like, girl, why are you laughing at a racial slur? What is so funny about that, okay? Huda has had opportunities long ago to check her fan base, especially when that picture of Olandria with the George Floyd whole thing happened. She definitely had an opportunity to speak on that at that time and chose not to. By not checking her fan base or addressing it at the door as soon as she came out the villa and letting them know that that type of behavior would not be aligned with her, she literally left a breeding pot for those individuals to come in and be able to just be as racist as they want. Some people don't even support Huda. I'm starting to think that half the fans are just racist individuals that just want a reason to go after a black woman at this point because they got to know they scaring the hoes. Y'all got to know y'all running off all these brand deals by acting this way. A brand deal is not going to attach themselves to racism. They're not going to attach themselves to any type of toxicity that would cause a problem for their brand. So the fact that her fan base is behaving this way just lets me know that y'all really don't want her to win at all, do you? Anywho, let's get into this transit chart so we can see exactly why this night in particular things came to a head. Now, the core of Huda's personality is centered around her moon, her Mercury, and her Venus. Now, this is the engine of her personality, which is that analytical, obsessed with perfection type of energy. Now, this is dealing with all of these facets, with the moon dealing with your emotions, the Mercury dealing with how you communicate, and your Venus dealing with love. This deals with the need for perfection in all of those areas, to the point to where you don't like to admit when you're in the wrong. This is where her lack of accountability always comes from. It's those Virgo placements for sure, okay? It deals with the denial of things. Now, this is when Virgo energy is in its lowest form. It's not really hitting the way it's supposed to. You know, I don't really like to describe any energy as negative. However, there's always a bad way to use this energy, and this is not the correct way to use this type of energy, okay? She had a real hard time admitting that Cancer rising mask had slipped off, and she literally could not admit to the messy, ugly, un-Virgo-like reaction. So the first thing that she wanted to do was deny it. Like, she's just desperate to maintain that image of her being a victim. Now, Venus would rule over the brand deals. So Virgo in Venus is tied to service and utility. The public saw a moral failure, but she only corrected course when her utility, her ability to make money, was hit. Now, when them pockets got hit, honey, that true apology came out, okay? But we all know it wasn't sincere because of the fact that it was just tied to her brand deals, okay? Now, on the night when it all transpired, the planetary energy was planetary pressure, okay? But that most critical thing being that 29th degree that I talked about early on. And the reason why that degree is so critical because it marks a final test. This is the ultimate test before a cycle ends. The planets are demanding accountability at this pressure point, okay? Now, because of that, the moon being in the 29th degree in Capricorn was literally squared her Virgo stellium, which we talked about before. Now, if you're not familiar with the square, I like to think of it as square up, like fighting. This energy does not like the other energy, okay? It's in conflict, okay? This energy literally put her emotional security and her public reputation under the most intense final pressure that could possibly be out there, okay? Her gut reaction became instantly magnified, into her career defining crisis. This is literally due because of the fact that the sun, which is also square all of this, is in Virgo. Now, thinking about that night, you have to think about Scorpio being in the 29th degree in Mercury. Now, I know for a fact that hit hard. Now, the fact that Mercury deals with communication and that all of this started off of a phone call in itself is crazy, okay? Now, we already know wherever Scorpio goes, so does in death and transformation. And I forgot to even add when it comes to that Capricorn moon that was shining so brightly in the sky that night. Capricorn deals with a lot of karmic retribution. It's that teacher that don't give a damn if you cry about it, you gonna learn it. Capricorn brings all that Saturn energy wherever it go, okay? And I don't even play about it. Now, Scorpio also rules those deep truths and power dynamics. That word held so much power that night. And those laughs and that reaction held a lot of power that night. So much power that it tore everything that she had built down. Just like that. That's that Scorpio Pluto energy, baby. The price was paid because of the lack of honesty, her denial of hearing the name, and the inability to quickly correct the action. Ultimately led to a cosmic judgment day, delivered on behalf of the fated degree. Now, anytime Scorpio is involved, Pluto energy is definitely in the building. And we know that Pluto is currently in Aquarius. Now, Pluto in Aquarius is about total transformation, exposure of group power, and social ethics. Now, when we're talking about group power and social ethics, we're talking about Huda's toxic ass fan base. These people harass people, and it's crazy how y'all do it. Y'all go in groups and drones. Now, I know that there are other fan bases that can get just as crazy. However, y'all take it to a whole nother level when y'all be hopping in people's inboxes, sending death threats. Like, what the hell is wrong with y'all? And because of the fact that she never addressed anything, it definitely left that melting pot of racists to be, lumped in with her fan base. Huda's scandal is literally a case study. Like, this is literally Astrology 101 about pressure points, specifically the 29th degree, okay? That positioning literally called out her inner workings of unhealed energy. A lot of the reason why, in my opinion, Huda does not check her fan base on a lot of this shit is because of the fact that she thrives in an environment where she feels like she's a victim. If you notice that I said that before, and I talked about it in her video where her 10th house is literally sitting in Pisces. So not hating on Pisces energy by far, okay? But just the negativity of the Pisces energy, I guess you could say, or the shadow side of that Pisces energy, yeah, we know it's the victim. With that Virgo stellium, it literally shined a light on that career-altering conclusion, because that definitely hurt her reputation. Now, let's dive into that Cancer rising a little bit. Now, this is her public face. And like I said, with Cancer risings, they definitely like to have a mask, almost like a shield. So the world can't really see who they are. Some use it as a protective mechanism. Others use it as a manipulation mechanism. Honestly, her Cancer rising is what helps her fan base see her as that Pisces victim. Cancer energy does not like to deal with anything that is not comfortable. And as soon as it does become uncomfortable, the protective, defensive mechanism comes up on that energy. This is why when she had the first original statement, it was more defensive and it was focused on protecting her image rather than taking responsibility for what had happened. She instinctively put up that crab's hard shell. When you're thinking of Cancer, you got to also think of the crab. Now, once she gets into this protective energy, that's when that Mars energy will kick in. Now, her Mars is in Leo. With that being there, it lets me know that Huda is very reactive. Her ego is also a big thing. Now, Mars is where you get your drive, your anger, your assertiveness. It's all about how you fight and how you defend yourself. By Huda's being in Leo, which Leo energy is very proud, it's very dramatic, and it's also incredibly ego-driven if you let it be, okay? And in that placement with Mars, yeah, it definitely lights that up. They're both fire energies. And now when we're talking about Leo, we're also thinking about the king and queen and their need for applause and recognition. And when's the last time you tried to call out an actual queen? It's almost like the nerve of you. Huh. That's what Mars and Leo energy gives, okay? It really did trigger like this fierce competitive defensiveness that only Mars and Leo can give, okay? It also requires the spotlight. Leo is ruled by the sun, so it shines a light on all of this. Leo is definitely that star of the show. Wherever Leo is at, that is where fame has the ability to appear for you. And let's be honest, Huda's Mars was definitely very prevalent on the show. She was very hypersexual on the show, let's be real, as well as her aggressive rants and going off and snapping out on people. That's what she was known for on that show. And that's how she got the fan base she did. And all of them is hostile little gremlins. They are. I've never seen anything like it. Now, on that first attempted apology, you know, the one that tried to nitpick the details as only a Virgo in Mercury can do, honey. Now, this was that Leo and Mars attempt to look like the hero and simply just misunderstood, rather than a person who just genuinely just messed up and just, you know, needed to take some accountability. Lord, just take some accountability. Okay, I'm sorry. But with the combination of that Cancer rising defensive sensitivity and that Virgo's need to just be perfect, and then the Leo's Mars with that ego-driven need to be seen a certain way, created the perfect storm. And her inability to get that all corrected and refusal to take any type of accountability for what happened that night created her own downfall. That 29th degree just happened to be there to snatch it from her, okay? That 29th degree will force you to move past your emotional shields and all that ego-driven denial, demanding the authenticity, okay? Now, this is that authenticity that Cancer, Leo, and Virgo dynamic was actively trying to suppress. All those months that we watched her do all the things that she did in the villa, all of the actions of her fan base, all of these things led up to now. If it would have been addressed earlier, we would not be here right now. And that is the bottom line. Now, because Huda has such a strong ego, I can guarantee that apology and that donation that she is giving was an incredibly painful moment for her. And it was a true surrender to accountability. However, it just was only done based on pressure, so it lacks sincerity. And that's very unfortunate for her. In my last video that I did about Huda, I did explain that a lot of these unhealed wounds would be her downfall. And well, here we are. I never once wanted to see all of this happened to her. I honestly knew that she had a bright future ahead of her. I mean, Love Island definitely wanted her to be the star of the show. They wanted Huda to give that Leah energy that they had last season. They wanted to be able to try and market it. They wanted to be able to try and utilize it. Huda was definitely picked. Ultimately, it was those unhealed traumas that tore all of this stuff down. Now, with that being said, Cosmic Cousins, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video on up. Now, if you made it this far, go ahead and hit that like. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to your girl. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of this cosmic tea that I want to sip with you. I am out, Cosmic Cousins.